Hi, I'm your host, Erica Polsinelli, and welcome to Evolve by Erica, the podcast, where we talk all things spirituality, ascension, health, wellness, and beyond. I'm so excited that you are here. Come on in. Guys, we have Erin Claire on today, who is a human design teacher and leader. I could talk about human design all day, every day. Absolutely love it. Once I found human design, it was probably in 2018, maybe 2016 or 17. I dipped my toes into it. And then a few years later, I really dove in to understand what it means to be a projector, what it means to be a mental projector. And it allowed me to feel so seen. And it truly helped me to honor the differences in myself that might be different in me than anyone else. And all of our design is completely unique to us. So in this conversation, we go into each design, the strengths, maybe the weaknesses that each one presents, because everything has a strength and everything has that little bit of a shadow side. We go into the aspect of business for each design and what the ideal environment may be to work in or to do, how we stay inspired. And I also share some things about me personally being a projector that I wanted advice on, because as much as I have this ability to see things, I'm also extremely sensitive to other energy. So it's been a goal of mine to find more balance between what I share and not taking on the energy that comes with sharing. So we go into that too. We go really deep into each type. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Erin shared so much, and she also shared a code for you to access some of her resources that we'll link in the show notes as well. Human design has truly given me the ability to accept things about myself that I think is seen as insufficient or just different than the life and the program that's running in the world that we live in. Being a mental projector, I need a lot of time to just slow down, to rest, to recalibrate, to even the way I make decisions, the way I just feel towards taking action. It's very different than I think a lot of other people, because it's a small percentage of people. And for my whole life, especially becoming a business owner, I question this. And sometimes I even still fall into the trap of should I, and I hate any should. There's no room for shoulds in our life, but they slip in, and you compare and you start to bring in the shoulds. And after diving deep into human design and learning more about it, it's given me this acknowledgement of it's safe to do what feels good in my body, in my mind, and work and act and love and live from that space. So I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm excited to go deep with you on all things human design, as well as specifically in business as well, because that's something we wanted to highlight. And yeah, I'm so excited for you to be here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
When did you start this journey?
I discovered human design in 2015. And so it's been, many stages to the journey since then, but I was introduced to it very serendipitously and basically had somebody be like, you're meant to do this. And he kind of like blew my mind with sharing my own human design. And I have been working with it ever since in some capacity. But it was harder early on because human design was not well known or
Yeah.
popular back in 2015 and not for a couple of years. So I felt like I was yelling into the void for those first couple of years. So I was like, no one's ever going to care, but this is amazing. So it was
Yeah.
so amazing to kind of watch people actually start to feel its impact and start to see its awareness grow, because it is such a practical, useful tool, like you said, to just give us permission to be who we are and to find more flow in every part of our lives, whether it's how we parent or how we build a business.
I teach and practice Kundalini, and I felt the same way. Like I felt when I first started that no one knew what this was. And I was just
Yeah.
like screaming it from the rooftops, like, you have to try to practice this and just see what it could bring you. So I have so much appreciation for being one of the first people to start talking about this and bringing this to the collective. And it could be discouraging. Like we both could have easily been
Yeah.
like, you know what, no one's talking about this. How could I possibly be successful if no one even knows this exists? But I think it's that inner passion and the impact it's had on us to be like,
Yeah.
no, you have to see into the future and
Hmm.
continue and follow your passion and your drive.
Hmm. This is going to be like a little human design jargon, so please excuse me, listeners. Do you remember the channel that you have or channels you have? Do you
Like
have
the
the 40 through
gifts.
23? Yeah,
I need to look. Wait, Gianna,
it's
can I
okay.
have my phone?
If you have
It's right
it,
over
find it. But let
there.
me just talk until then, only because one, something I know about both of our designs, and I know we can talk about this later, is that both of us are kind of meant to be like seeing into the future, which can make us feel quite misunderstood. And I
Mm.
have a channel that's very much about that. So I'm super curious if you have it too, because it just means that some of these ideas may feel a little bit freaky to others and a little bit weird. And it's just because like we often see things before others do. And then everyone else catches on and realize they're actually amazing. And so I think it's been really helpful for me in my design to realize that it's very natural for me to kind of be on the cutting edge of things, but it means that I will likely feel misunderstood for quite a few years before the idea actually catches on.
My, for some reason, it's not giving me access. I don't know if I don't have service, so I can't see,
Okay.
but what was it called?
Okay. Basically, there's an aspect of our chart, and just for people listening, our chart is so unique. Nobody really has like the same design. It's so just like our own unique blueprint. But our channels basically correspond to natural strengths that we have. And so, one of the strengths that I'm curious whether you have, and it sounds like you might, just given what I know about your design, is the 4323, which I call the channel of knowing. It's also called the channel of the freak to genius, but it basically means these people are meant to have like freaky new weird ideas, and they often just see things that are kind of like light years ahead of other people.
I love
And
that.
so I think knowing that about me has been really helpful, because I was like, oh, like that's why like I saw this first, and also why like I'm also not going to be in it forever, because like I like being like on that edge. And sometimes these things, kundalini, human design, whatever it is, like it stops kind of being on the edge because it gets integrated more into the mainstream.
Yeah. And it's so important. It's just validating what we
Yeah,
feel, what we think. And just reading that, I can see, like for you, it just gave you that reassurance that it's okay to be doing or talking
totally.
about or pushing for or sharing something that really isn't talked about yet. And I think
Hmm.
that's how I've been so drawn to human design, and what I've loved so much about it is absolutely what it brings in that aspect. Yeah.
Totally. It's such a liberating tool in that way.
It really is. So, to start, just in case anyone's new, I think that very much of my community is familiar with it. But overall, can you share each of the types and maybe a little bit of the stereotype or general, I guess, a general synopsis of each one?
Yes, of course. So if you haven't yet looked up your human design and you're totally new, you can look up your type at humandesignblueprint.com. You're going to see a wild looking chart. Don't worry about that just yet. What you want to look at is what's listed under your type. There are 5 types, and it's such an important part of our design while also serving as like just the first piece. There's so much more underneath it. But the 5 types are generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. And so let me start with generators and manifesting generators together. I'll talk about them together and then separately. But these people are the doers, the people that have the energy, kind of the life force, the vitality to kind of bring ideas to life when they feel genuine excitement and satisfaction about what they're working on. And because they're so naturally energetic and capable, they can get pulled into basically everything. And so one of their biggest lessons is cultivating really strong boundaries and really trusting their gut to know what they actually feel available for and what they don't. One of the biggest lessons for generators is to prioritize their own satisfaction and see that not as a selfish choice, but as like the best thing they can do for everybody. When they are lit up and excited by what they're doing, it is like the most like exciting thing to be around. Their energy just kind of like ripples out and lifts up everyone around them. And these are people that really need to use up their energy every day. Like they are meant to wake up energized, use it all up, and kind of go to bed. And they're like, I am delightfully spent. I left it all on the table, and now I can sleep. Manifesting generators in particular might love doing many things at once. They're quite multi passionate. They might enjoy moving between this thing and then this thing, and pivoting is just part of their nature. They're also very fast. Generators may enjoy kind of more the step by step process of bringing an idea to life and may enjoy kind of diving deep into one thing at a time. And the last piece that I would share about both of these types is that they are very magnetic and they are not meant to chase after anything. Life is just meant to kind of bring things into their world and they just kind of tune into their gut to see what they're available for and what they're not. Is that clear?
Yes, absolutely. I
Yeah.
loved that.
So, and I would say that sometimes people can be like, oh, I'm the type that's like, most people are that type. Like, I'm boring. And it's like, oh my God, of course most people are that type. Like, these are people that like bring it all to life, like make it happen. Like, thank God for them, you
Yeah.
know? And again, it's just knowing that like when they're lit up and excited, they just like are better parents, better business owners, better everything, better just like employees. And so, really finding ways that they can kind of prioritize their joy and their satisfaction in their day to day. Okay. Then we've got projectors. You and I are both projectors. Projectors are not here to be consistent doers. Our energy can really ebb and flow. And so we might find that we like a burst of energy and then rest, a burst of energy and then rest. And so one of our biggest lessons, especially living in a world of a lot of doers, is to not try to do all the time and allow moments of rest and pause and space in our days. As a projector, so much of our gift is how we see things and how sensitive we are to others, not how much we can do. Projectors make very natural leaders, teachers, coaches, managers, like anything where they're just kind of leveraging their natural wisdom around people and guiding and stewarding others. They often love mastering systems, Kundalini, human design, things like that. And, you know, as a projector, we're really here to be invited into things. And so we're not really here to chase after and force either, but really see who recognizes our unique value and
Yeah.
really invites us in to share it. So it's not just kind of responding to a thing that you see like a generator, but more like somebody's like, hey, Erica, you'd be amazing at this. Can you share your gifts here? And you're like, oh, wow, I feel really recognized. Yes, I want to step into that. You know, and I shared briefly about this at the beginning, but that's how I was brought into human design. Somebody was like, you'd be amazing at this. You should do this. And I was like, does that feel right? Oh, it actually does. Okay, I'll explore that. But that's how all the biggest opportunities in my life have emerged.
Why is being recognized such an important aspect for projectors?
Because as a projector, we, like I said, aren't meant to be doers. And so if people don't recognize that and they're expecting us to kind of be constantly available and
Yeah.
on and always doing, like we just are not set up to thrive. So we're really only set up to thrive when somebody's like, hey, I see your gifts, I see your value. Like, let me create space for you to share them in a way that is sustainable and works for you. I would say another reason why it's so important is that as projectors, we naturally see and sense and feel a lot. I would say probably particularly for you as a mental projector. And so it's very tempting to want to share all the things that you see. You know, maybe share how your friend can do this better or how somebody can do this. But like our energy is a little bit intense, and if people aren't ready it can just like go right over their head and leave you feeling pretty bitter and resentful.
Mm.
And so recognition is also a tool for you to know like, oh, somebody has space in their energy for my wisdom to land. They're actually asking for what I have to share and they're ready to receive it. And so I see the kind of the invitation piece as a projector as a tool to protect my energy and just make sure I'm really kind of only sharing it with those that are ready and desiring of it. And I just want to caveat that by saying this does not mean that we're meant to be the passive, like sitting on the couch being like, okay, well, just like wait for all the invitations to come. Like, we have to hone our craft, we have to make ourselves visible, we have to share, but it's not about pitching specific people, but sharing in kind of a broader way and seeing who resonates with us.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think this is somewhere I have difficulty a lot because I see myself in a lot of different places and I have goals and I have aspirations, but it's that balance of knowing that I need to be invited in and not actually knocking on doors,
Yeah,
which is hard because you feel like you
it
should
is hard.
be pitching yourself or putting yourself out there for different experiences and opportunities. But that's not typically how it works for me. Typically, it's
Yeah.
someone recognizing me and what I have to offer, and then that coming to me.
Totally. And
Yeah.
it can be annoying at times. And I think similar to you, I look back and I'm like, but that's how all the opportunities have started for me. And so I can resist
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know, and try to do it differently, or I can just trust that. And like, there are still times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to just go initiate and make this happen. And it's just often very exhausting. It doesn't tend to work out in the way that I thought. And it's just kind of a constant reaffirmation and reminder that, like, maybe not the best way for me.
Yeah. Isn't there a really big element of success, like focus for projectors?
Yes. So basically, every type in human design will have a signal that reveals whether they're on or off track. And it's just like a really simple, useful tool to just stay
Uh,
aligned. So for generators and manifesting generators, their kind of signature feeling that like they are on track in their lives is when they feel a lot of satisfaction. They're like, I am just like so satisfied by the way that I'm using my energy. And it just feels like so, I'm so content and it feels so rich and it feels so fulfilling.
mm,
To be off track for them is to feel frustrated, and frustration is often a signal that like something needs to be reassessed and looked at. For us as projectors, our signature feeling that we're on track is a feeling of success. And success can appear obviously in many ways. It can be financial success, but it also can be like, I feel like really appreciated for my gifts and I feel really recognized and invited in to share them. And I love the opportunities that are coming my way. And I feel so successful in my friendships. And so I would just think about whether that's showing up for you as a projector. And then to be off track, which is inevitable at times, is to feel bitter. And that bitterness is often rooted in a lack of appreciation, a lack of recognition. I feel like we have so much to share, but nobody's asking.
mm,
Do you
okay.
notice those kind of two feelings in your own life?
I know that success is like a really, really big theme for sure.
Yeah.
And I can see also being like where I want to be or the experiences I want to have and why hasn't it happened yet? So I guess I can see into the bitterness in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I could totally see how that relates for
Yeah.
sure.
It's just helpful. I feel like when it comes
Yeah,
up for me, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to look at this thing a little bit deeper and see what's really going on here.
totally.
So then we have manifestors.
Hmm.
Manifestors are disruptive, innovative, provocative forces that are really good at getting things started, but not necessarily at doing all the doing to keep an idea alive. So they're
Okay.
really here to kind of just get it started, get the ball rolling, and then free up their energy for the next idea to initiate. Manifestors are really here to do things on their own terms and in their own way. So these are not people that are here to be guided or controlled or told what to do. It's very much kind of them feeling free to do what they want when they want. Their energy is very bursty. And what I mean by that is they might have periods where they're like super on fire, like over a couple days, weeks, or hours where they make so much happen. And then they kind of pull back and rest and they're unavailable and then the energy comes back. So, really allowing themselves to be in those ebbs and flows. And it's so important for them because all the new ideas they're meant to initiate and create often come from a period of rest. So, allowing rest also allows space for those ideas to emerge. And their strategy in human design is to initiate. They're just here to make the first move, to pursue what they want, whether it's dating or an idea they want to create in the world. And an annoying yet also important part of their design is just keeping people in the loop. It's often very tempting for manifestors to just go about their thing and not tell anyone, and then there could be a lot of resistance. And so, just giving people a heads up of what they're doing before they do it can create a lot more ease and connection in their life.
Interesting.
The final type is a reflector. It's the rarest type, about 1% of the population. You actually might feel a lot of resonance with reflectors because they're similar to mental projectors in many ways. But reflectors are very fluid beings. They will have days where they feel like generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors. So their job is just to honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing like it's all them. They tap into all of it. Consistency is not their gift, it's fluidity and just honestly vastness. We call them evaluators often in the context of business because they just see, sense, and feel things that most people don't. And so they often thrive in positions where they're really invited in to kind of share their perspective and what they see. They can often see what's not working in a space and how things can be made better. And space is one of their most important things to pay attention to. Being in the right space, whether that's the right city, the right home, the right coffee shop, the right table at a restaurant, makes their experience so much better. And so I always encourage these people to be very ruthless about their spaces and very high maintenance about their spaces and make sure they're really planting themselves in the right spaces.
As you share each one, I find so much that resonates from each of them for myself as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like I feel like they all live
Totally.
within us in some way as well,
Yep.
even though we have our one type. But I can
Yeah.
relate to that with spaces and how expansive of energy that could be.
That's so true for you.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
why for me too?
Because it is, without getting too much into the intricacies of the chart, it is also true if you have a certain center white in your design, which knowing your design as a mental projector, you absolutely do. And mental projectors and reflectors are incredibly similar in so many ways. And so the idea for you, similar to reflectors, is that opportunities come when you're in the right space.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to just like keep curating your spaces. And that means like living in a space you love, also really tending to your spaces, making sure the studio you're choosing in the city is like, oh God, this feels so good. If you go out to dinner, it's like, oh, I love this restaurant, I love the vibe. Like you just take in so much energy in any space that you're in. And so being in the right space means you take in and amplify energy that's like only going to bring out the best in you. But if you're in a space that doesn't feel good, it's the opposite,
Oh my
you
God,
know?
yes.
So like think of it as like you're just kind of like a magnifying glass for your spaces. And so like just being like, okay, given that I will magnify whatever I'm around, let me just choose what I want to magnify. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because then it's like, okay, if you want to explore entrepreneurship or you want to explore art, it's like, oh, I'm going to spend time around like a lot of entrepreneurs or artists or other Kundalini practitioners or teachers or whatever it is, because like that just is energy is going to kind of like grow and become bigger in you.
Yeah, I feel that so deeply. Both of them, like the
Yeah.
spaces that aren't feeling connected to me and aren't the ones I want to amplify, and how much resistance I feel when I'm in those. And then the
Yeah.
spaces where I do, it's just like, whoa, so much so that I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready for a new house because
Totally.
I really have been feeling that a lot lately.
Well, and I would also just say for you and for reflectors, like the spaces are going to keep changing,
Yeah.
because you're going to keep changing. Like you're meant
That's
to be
what
so
I'm
many
also
things.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just like this space once felt so good, or this
Yeah.
community once felt so good, or this city once felt so good. And it doesn't anymore. And it doesn't mean I made the wrong choice. It just means that a new part of you wants to come out and a new space is required to pull that part of you out.
Wow, I feel that so deeply. It's so interesting. And my husband's a manifesting generator, and a lot of what I feel is very different than what he
Very
does.
different.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I can
in a
imagine.
great way. But yeah, it's just so, so different.
Yeah.
So, in the workspace, I know you mentioned a bit with reflectors, but in the workspace for each type, like what is
Mhm.
the ideal that comes? Like,
Mhm.
I'm always wondering about myself, obviously, and being a projector and what that means for me as someone who has her own business, but is also a creative. And it's a creative business and a very heart centered, aligned spiritually business. And I would love to know what the wisdom you have for each type and the
Mhm.
roles that they thrive in, and maybe the things that come more as a challenge to them based on their design.
Mhm. So I would say generators are going to thrive. And actually, sorry, first I'll say that I believe like any type can do anything.
Yes,
Like I'm not the
yes,
kind of
totally.
practitioner who's gonna be like, okay,
Yeah,
only manifestors can be entrepreneurs, because like
yes.
just not how
I
there's
appreciate
more
that.
nuance.
Of course.
Yeah. So like I would say that like I believe any type can do anything. And what our design offers us is how to do it in a way that actually works for us.
Mhm.
And there's so many other parts of our design beyond type that can even shed more light on this. But I would say, as generators, what's most important is that you are working on a thing that just feels like you love diving deep into, you love mastering, and it just feels really satisfying. Whether that's like you like leading a team, or whether that means like you love like selling, or you love designing, or you love making art, whatever it is, like you're just here to like dive deep into things and sink your teeth into them. And like it just has to feel satisfying. And so when I work with teams that are primarily composed of generators, I always remind the leader just like stay attuned to what brings them the most satisfaction, and help them make that the priority. Of course, we are all going to do things that are not fun. So when I say that, it's not an excuse to like not take out the garbage, or like to not respond to your emails. It's more like, how can I prioritize my satisfaction as a generator? Because that will give me more energy to do anything else. And so I would say for them, just really kind of giving themselves that space to do what really feels the most satisfying in their work. I think where they can struggle in their work is because they are so capable. People, like I said, can throw all kinds of things on them, and they can feel the need to do it all themselves. They're like, I can do it. Like I'll do it because I can, not because I want to. And
Yeah.
so I think a big lesson for them is really starting to delegate when they can, knowing again, the more space they have to do it satisfies them, the more magnetic they'll actually become to opportunities. So it's
Mm.
actually so advantageous to everyone. I would say for manifesting generators, like they're often going to thrive in a work setting where each day is a little bit different. It's like, it could be like this day I'm working on this and this day I'm working on this. Like it just got to like stay exciting. And maybe it's they have one job and then they get to like garden and do all their hobbies in the afternoon. Like there can be so many different forms of this, but like
Yeah.
they're probably not going to thrive in a job that is super linear and always the same, and like rote, like they just like they need things to keep evolving. I remember sitting with a Navy SEAL once and he was just like, some days I'm in the water, some days I'm like flying. Like he was like, I just like loved how much variety there was.
Yeah.
So I think for manifesting generators, like you need variety, you need a lot of space to be in your own flow, and you need to be able to move fast.
Yeah.
And so that's what's most important, and not expect others to move fast like you.
Hmm.
And I would say probably what feels most supportive to them is having people that can like handle the step by step so they can kind of move fast and be in this like wild and amazing flow.
I see all this with my husband. He literally needs me to structure his time management. He'll
Projectors are
he'll
great for
say like, I need
that.
to do this. How am I going to get this done, or how am I going to do
Yeah,
it? And I'll literally have to like break down the steps. I'm like, is this executive functioning or is this manifesting generator? Maybe a little bit of both, but I see that
totally.
so deeply, and like the need to have all the hobbies and all the different things that like bring that fulfillment.
Yeah, totally. Inside and outside of work.
Yeah.
And to allow it to keep changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing and where they can struggle, I would say, is that like manifesting generators sometimes can feel as if they're scattered or doing too much, because they can have a lot of their plate in a way that feels like a little bit wild to the rest of us.
Yeah.
But that's often how they thrive.
Yeah.
So it's also knowing that like it's not doing too much, it's not being scattered, it's just around needing a little bit more diversity in their day to day and really kind of embracing their multidimensional nature. I would say as projectors, specifically as people that run businesses, but also honestly any projectors, that again, your gift is not how much you can do. And so like in an ideal world, like say you're running a business, you get to hone in on the part of your business where you'll offer like the most value.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people that can really support you on the rest. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me and my business, like I'm not great at operations, I'm not great at strategy. Like there's a lot that I'm not good at. What I'm really good at is like teaching and sharing content around human design.
Yeah.
And so like we've kind of built a structure that means like that's kind of my job, and like I don't actually really touch the rest of it. And so like, and everybody will have a different approach here, but like
Yeah.
it's really considering like what is the gift that I actually offer? What do I feel the most recognized and seen for? It doesn't mean I can't do other things, but it's probably not where my energy is best used.
Mm.
And I think in terms of the structuring the day to day, like it is so easy as a projector to want to like schedule so much, to kind of book everything back to back, and it's just not where we thrive.
Yeah.
And so really creating a little bit more spaciousness in your days. Maybe it's not working a 5 day or 6 day week. Maybe it's not working 8 hours a day. It's just like, where could you be most effective, and not just like adding more and more and more.
And what about your balance between, for a projector, being alone and like hermiting, but then also getting the energy you need and being stimulated by outside energy of like the generators and the manifesting generators and really anyone else in the world? Like, I know
Totally.
that's important for us, that
It
balance.
is. It's both. And again, there are going to be parts of our design that really shed more light on that. I think knowing what I know about your design, like you're likely somebody who's quite independent. So I would say like having space to just be in your own flow is going to be really, really important. And
Yep.
so like I would say like because of your profile, but also because of other things, your definition. So I would say like that's going to be really important. But like you said, as projectors, we get energy being around other people,
Yeah.
and like if you're around a lit up generator or manifesting generator, like it is going to give you so much energy.
Yep.
And so I would just stay attuned to like, okay, like I'm feeling a little bit overstimulated, and like I really just like want to write and have no influence. Like, let me just be in my own flow. And then like, oh, I actually feel like a little bit stuck and isolated. Like, let me just like go work from a coffee shop, or go for a walk, or go like have a call with somebody about something exciting. So
Yeah.
it's going to be balanced, but I would definitely not tend towards like only spending time around people or only spending time alone. I
Yeah.
think for me, I love being alone, and I'm writing a book right now. So that's where most of my energy is. But like working from coffee shops and just around others is like, and I don't even talk to them, is like one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Wow.
So it's both.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I've seen that for sure in
Yeah.
my own life.
And it's just staying attuned of like, let me just again make sure I'm not so alone that I feel isolated, and make sure I'm
Yeah.
not so with people that I just feel like a little bit overstimulated
Or
by it all.
even drained.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is in the same way that being around a really lit up manifesting generator like your husband is like so like just infectious and wonderful. Being around a manifesting generator or a generator that is not lit up by what they're doing and really frustrated will make you feel sluggish and
Yeah.
drained and exhausted. And so like one thing to know as projectors is that one of the things that we are most sensitive to, and we all have different sensitivities, is to how others feel about their work. And so when they're excited about their work, we take it in, we
Yeah.
amplify it, it feels great. When they're not excited about their work, we feel it too in a very kind of deflating way.
Yeah, totally.
When it comes to manifestors, I would say manifestors tend to thrive in what I've observed, either working for themselves, that's often very natural for them because it just gives them the freedom they crave, or if they're working for a company, they're just like given a domain to be in charge of. It's like, this is your domain, do what you please, let us know how it goes. Um, like I said, manifestors are really good at starting things. So in an ideal world, like they can start new things and start new ventures and ideas, and then like be able to eventually hand those things off to kind of launch another thing. So they have like so much amazing energy at the beginning of something. It also is ideal, and I know this is not always feasible in the corporate world, is that they don't have to be on and available all the time. They can be on fire for a couple of weeks and then work from home for a couple of weeks, you know? So figuring out a
Mm.
schedule that kind of allows them to honor those natural currents of their energy. And they also are not great at being like having to ask somebody for permission all day, every day. So if they can also create some kind of dynamic with their boss where it's like, okay, like we are aligning on the vision. I'm going to go do the thing and then I'll report back and we'll reassess. But if they're kind of like feeling blocked all day, every day, it can feel very constricting for them. But I would say the biggest thing is giving themselves permission to delegate and hand things off so they can free up their next idea to initiate, and also really keeping their team informed of when they're on and available and inspired, and also when they kind of need to pull back and be unavailable for a while.
Mm.
And then for reflectors, and some of these are harder than others, I would say, in a more corporate world, but all of them are possible. As a reflector, I would just know within yourself that your energy is going to really ebb and flow throughout the month, where you may have weeks where you can do more than anybody else, and then weeks where you really need to kind of just like rest and take it slower. So this might be a thing that you vocalize, or more just an acceptance you have within yourself and more an honoring of where you are. I think similar to what we just shared, I think it's really good for reflectors to like be around others, because that can give them so much energy, but also to really balance that with time alone. And maybe that's just having like evenings alone for themselves, or having an hour in the morning to themselves, but like carving out that space is so, so important. And being around the right collaborators is going to be a big thing because they're also taking in so much of the energy that they're around.
Yeah. Can you share about the centers and the open versus the closed and what that means?
Of course. So basically, if you look at a chart, there are going to be 9 different shapes. Some of those shapes will be colored in and shaded in your design. Some will be white and open. Basically, the areas that are colored in and shaded are the areas where you have the most consistency in your design, and where just like things are kind of operating in a very predictable way. And it's also where you impact others with your energy. So an example for you, again, I don't have your design in front of me, but I will know that you'll have like a very defined mind,
Yeah.
which means that like you're like really here to be a thinker, and like just like always sharing your perspective and your opinions and your ideas, and like so much of your gift is just like how you see the world and how you process things. It's not about using your analytical mind to like make sense of your own life, but more to kind of inspire and share wisdom with other people.
Mm.
A big area for me is that I have a defined emotional center, so my emotions really impact others. When I'm in a high, that's really felt. When I'm in a low, that's felt as well. So for me, really learning to be aware of that. The areas that are white in your design are the areas where you are the most sensitive to other people. So these are the areas that can take you the most off track, but also where you have the most wisdom and lessons to learn and the most to share.
Mm.
And so an example for you is like, you have an open root center. And so basically what that would mean is that like you're actually really sensitive to other people's stress. And so if you're around people that are really stressed, you can really feel it intensely, and it can lead you to feeling like I've got to do everything right now and feeling very urgent about things. And a big lesson for you is to slow down and to
Yeah.
relax and to work more sustainably, and to actually help others slow down as well. So it kind of helps us know like what are the things we can really rely on, and also what are the areas where we can get the most taken off track, and how can we use the awareness of those areas to stay on track.
Interesting. What about an open sacral?
So an open sacral will be true for manifestors, reflectors, and projectors. This is actually the piece that we shared about around the fact that with an open sacral, you're really sensitive to how others feel about their work. And so when you're around people that are creatively lit up and on fire and excited, we will feel that way. When you're around people that are frustrated, depleted, exhausted, we will feel sluggish. And because of that, that's why it's so important to be around people that really feel aligned in their work. But it also means that we have a really strong gift of helping others navigate the world of work,
Yeah.
helping them use their energy in more effective, sustainable ways, really knowing when they're on the verge of burnout. And so that might be part of why your husband, who has a defined sacral, looks to you to be like, how can I use my energy more effectively? Because you're so attuned to how he's using his energy and how he can do it better.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting about projectors. It's like that efficiency is there, like you see things in an efficient way, and also
Yeah.
um just your perspective. Like I feel like since a really young age, I saw the world, like the illusions of the world really clearly, and
Yeah.
I would almost also be attuned to what some may call conspiracies
Yeah.
since a very young age. Like I just saw past the illusion of the time and what was like,
Mm-hmm.
I would be able to look at something and see behind that and be like, well, that's in the forward that's forward fronting because someone did this and pushed this forward, or there's an agenda. Like I could very easily see agendas. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like my bullshit detector in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because we're living through a time where people are very open to those things
Mm-hmm.
and being able to like critically think and think beyond what's just being shown to us and what's being pushed forward. And we're also living through a time where it's very polarizing to speak about things that aren't yet spelled out for us and aren't scientifically proven or aren't part of the mainstream media. So
Mm-hmm.
personally, I've struggled with this. And honestly, this is like the first time I'm talking about it because I've shied away from it because it could be just very, I guess, controversial or polarizing for people to hear. But it's just something within me, and it's not like being ignorant or being a conspiracy theorist or whatever. It's just I can see things that aren't yet part of the narrative, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been a struggle. So, what would you say to me as a projector and as a mental projector? How should I utilize this?
So I would say, you are, one thing I know about you being a mental projector is most of your centers will be wide and open, meaning that you're really sensitive to a lot of things. So like
I'm
people's
so
fears, yeah,
sensitive.
to their
Even
stress,
if
to
I
their
like
yeah, go ahead.
post something on social media, I could wake up the next morning and feel the impact of something I shared and almost feel like nauseous from it.
Yeah. So I would say, that first piece is that you are so deeply sensitive. And so just
Yeah.
knowing that, like you said, you're gonna just feel a lot of things that are not your own. And it gives you a lot of wisdom, like you said, where it's like, oh, I can see through a lot. I can see what they're scared of. I can see what stress is stressing them out. I can see how they feel about their work. You can see it all. It requires you to depersonalize all the things that you're feeling and realize a lot of what you're feeling is not your own. So I would say that's a big lesson for you of like, how can I just kind of be this like just like see all these things and objectively observe them instead of personalizing them as my own. Like their stress is not my stress, their fear
Yeah.
is not my fear. So getting really clear there. And then I would say again, like I'm curious your channels, but like you are here to have really strong opinions and share them,
Yeah.
and so like it doesn't mean you share them with everybody because you're a projector, like, not everyone's going to be ready for them.
Yeah.
But I would say, especially as a sixth line, like you're probably going to see things before others do. So I would definitely not shy away from sharing your opinions in the spaces in which people are ready to hear them.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if you have this channel that I was sharing about earlier that I have, but the idea with this like freak to genius channel, we'll have to look at your chart after, is when you share your insights and like have learned how to simplify them in a way that actually makes them palatable, and you share them with an audience that is actually desiring to hear them, you can be seen as like an absolute genius.
Mm-hmm.
If you share your insights before you know how to simplify them, and also and to an audience that isn't ready, you're seen as like a total freak,
Freak.
and like
Yeah.
and one thing with that channel in particular is like things that I think similar to actually what you're just sharing here is that like things that might seem really obvious to you are just not obvious to other people. And so it can feel
Yeah.
hard because you're like, why don't you see this? And then it's like, oh, like I have to learn how to communicate this in a way that makes sense. And
Yeah.
like I think that's been my journey with human design. I'm like, this is so obvious. So why don't you guys get it? And it's like, oh, like I actually have to translate everything that I'm learning in a way that's actually going to make sense to people. So I think that like for you, it's like, how can I crystallize the things that I see in a way that makes them make sense? And how can I really deliver them to the right audience, knowing that not everyone will be ready, but the people that are ready, it will
Yes.
impact them so deeply. And it's
Uh-huh.
absolutely worth sharing there and not shying away.
I feel that so deeply. And I have seen in the past couple of months, just like taking more action on that and being available to the conversations, more like instead of talking at someone about something I'm seeing that maybe they're not
Yeah,
seeing yet, it's like inviting them in on it and being like,
totally.
this is what I see. I don't know if I'm correct, but let's talk about the possibility
Yeah,
of this being a thing. So yeah, I
totally.
see that and feel that so deeply. And it's really true, like the taking on of energy. Is there more, going through the different designs, are more types susceptible of taking on more energy than others from the outside?
It's totally dependent on your unique design because like as a mental projector, I know that the most centers that you can have defined are three. I don't You could have 2 to 3 centers defined. So I know that you're gonna have at least 6 centers open,
Okay.
which means you're super sensitive. I'm a fellow projector and I
Okay.
have 2 centers open.
Okay.
As a generator, you could have 9 centers defined or 2 centers defined. So like that is all to say that every type is going to be sensitive to other things, and it goes beyond type to kind of know what in particular you're sensitive to. But knowing your
S-
design, all mental projectors will be very sensitive, all reflectors will be as well, and then everything else is so dependent on your unique design.
So it's more about where you're open and closed.
Correct.
Okay. So as a mental projector, I'm more open than closed. I only
Correct.
have the mind defined, which is closed.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
you'll either have the head or the throat defined as well,
Oh, I
or
think
both.
something's up with my throat. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Something I remember in like readings in the past, like it was the throat and the
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting. Oh my goodness. So exciting to share all this. Are there any last thoughts that you'd want to share with each type? Something to maybe look out for? I feel like you kind of covered that, like things that they just have to look out for in order to like protect their energy and not fall into maybe the shadow side. Any other tips for each type though that you think is really valuable that you'd like to share?
I think what I would say for the manifesting generators, I would just encourage you all to reflect on whether there's anything you're holding on to you in your life that you just no longer have the energy for. And just trust that like you are here to try on things and let go of things. And it's often not until you let go that the new thing will emerge and show up. So giving yourself permission to like let go, even if it's like, oh, that didn't work out, or oh, I've been in this relationship for a long time, but like it's meant to keep changing and shifting for you. So giving yourself that permission. I would say for the generators, I think I already said this, but I would just give yourself permission to do at least one thing every day that like just brings you so much joy. And it can be like, oh my God, I love building my website, or I just love taking care of the horses, or whatever it is, like just one thing, and just kind of start to see your satisfaction as a thing that like deserves to be prioritized, because you'll notice how much more energy you'll have when you do that. Um, I think as the projectors, I would just think about where in your life you feel like the most deeply seen, where you're like, they just get me and see me in a really deep way. And I would invest more energy there because
Mm,
I think it'll give you a sense of like, oh God, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what friendship's supposed to feel like, partnership, work. Because as projectors, like the more recognized we feel, the more energy we have. And so I know for me learning human design, my whole community changed because I was
yeah.
like, oh, like I love these people, and also like I don't really feel seen by them,
Yeah.
or like I like this part of my work, but like not really where I feel the most recognized. So really just becoming a bit more ruthless.
I love it.
um Manifestors, I would say like give yourself permission to like shut the door and make yourself totally unavailable to people for a short period of time or a long period of time, and just know that like there's so much that's birthed in solitude, in quiet, and make yourself available for that. And then for reflectors, I would say like think about your favorite space right now. Like maybe it's an online community, maybe it's a cafe, maybe it's like a certain table at a restaurant, and just like go there simply because you love the space. And know that like so much emerges when you do that. So kind of like making your first job, like plant myself in the right space and then see what comes from that.
I love that so much. So, can you share with the listeners how you share this with the world, how you teach, any resources you have that they can have access to?
Of course. So I share a lot on Instagram, both at Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint. If you want to learn about your design and you're just like, oh my God, just tell me the things, the best place is something called the Blueprint Guide. This is our signature offering. It basically is a personalized guide and book all about you. It's 55 plus pages that dives into all the most important parts of your chart. It's totally custom, and just for context, there are like hundreds of thousands of possible versions of this guide because like everyone is so different. And so that's at humandesignblueprint.com/guide. And you can use the discount code EVOLVE if you'd like to get your guide. You can also just look up your design for free on our website and download a free little summary as well. So that's where I would start. If you're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with human design, I want to learn everything, I want to share it, we also have classes there, and that is perfect whether you just want to dive deeper, whether you really want to do this professionally. So those are the two places I would go.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I'm so grateful for it. I love going deep in human design. I love the aspects that you brought to the conversation. So I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Erin has a lot of offerings where you can click the link below. She's offering a discount to the Evolve community and Evolve members, which is linked in the show notes if you want to go a bit deeper on your type or human design in general, even if you want to start becoming a teacher. She has resources for you there too. It was incredible talking to her. Please find me on Instagram. Let me know your type. Let me know what resonated with you. I love to hear it all. And if you're guided to share this episode with anyone who you think may be impacted by it, or to leave a rating and a review of the episode and the podcast, it means the world to me. So you can go ahead and do that. And I'm sending you so much love for being here, for supporting, and for enjoying these high vibe conversations that we can have here together. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. May the long time sun shine upon you. Sat Nam.